Well, hello there. This is Dennis, coming to you again, once again, live from the top of Mount Shasta. The tapes that have preceded deal sequentially in different things that have gone on and different aspects of what I am teaching in the moment in time. In other words, I take the material as it is in this moment in time and relay it to you in as simple and as clear forward a way as possible. You have not all received all of the tapes. Some of you are just taking a tape here and a tape there. You will find that the tapes work together in a series, and that I support you in getting naturally as many as possible. This particular tape is done in a little different of a way. It's more of a tape to sit back and enjoy and relax into the energy. In other words, this is almost like, well, just on this one side, is almost like a meditation tape. It will be designed to give you a nice, easy feeling, something that you don't have to think very difficultly on, don't have to pay attention to. It's almost as if you could go into a meditative state and just follow along as if it were a color meditation or something within that nature. And that's what we're going to do on the first part of this tape. First part of the tape will be devoted to energy, because it is something that we need to look at and study, because we are a being of energy. We are composed of movement created by our own thought in present time and substantiating our future, which is real nice. In February's tape, we talked about God. We talked that you were God. We gave the space story, and we will give a continuing of that space story in further tapes, because I've developed that aspect a lot farther than the tape that was given to you in February. And as I increase the material, then that material will be appropriate, and it will all blend in together. For right now, we're just going to reaffirm the fact that we're God, that we are a part of the whole, that we are the totality. This totality should not be forgotten. There are times when we feel that the planet is more important, our job is more important, our mates are more important. Anything that you want to pick is more important. And within this importantness, we forget that the very inspiration of it came from God, came directly from God. I mentioned this slightly and a little here and a little there, because not everybody fully grasps that particular concept. It is a concept of taking responsibility that you are the actual creator of your existence. The key here is, for many of you who have heard me say, it is here and now. It is here and now. And you need to be centered on the here and now. As God, you will see how many things you can create in this moment in time. You will begin to see clearly how it is that your life moves along, because by seeing that you are God and seeing that you are paying attention to the here and now, you will begin to notice your creative aspect. You will begin to notice how you create things in the future to happen. You will see how you look at yourself through your eyes. You need to take a look at yourself through your eyes and see what it is that you really are. What is it that really composes you and makes you? What builds you? We take it for granted that it is our actions and the actions of others combining together to give us a guideline. This is very true. Inside of us, we have set concepts. Concepts are ideas. They are what we call truths. They are the very basic structure on which we compose ourselves. We have truths that are very long-standing. They are truths that we have gained over years and years of being on the planet. They are ideas which we give truth to. They are ideas that have been formulated by other aspects in our life that we need to take a look at here and now to see if they are for real, to see if they can hold the stand of time. It's sort of like a giant tree. Let's just take a look at ourselves. When we were born, we became our parents because they were our closest example. They guided us, they showed us what to do, they taught us, and we became our parents. Then, as we began to grow into children and seeing that communicating with other children was kind of a unique experience because they, like ourselves, had different concepts. Upon examining ourselves, we discovered that their concepts were a little different than ours because their family, their parents, were a little different than ours. And we began to look that there may be other realities besides our own. It was the first biggest notice that other realities were different than ours. See, our world was confined to our parents, to our house, and to only that environment. And so our world became theirs. As we went out to school, we discovered that there was a bigger world, there was a grander world, there was more things going on. And we wished to see how these other things worked in relationship to our own truths. Because we were young, we quickly took on other children's concepts and ideas because we were coming from a space of unconditional love. And we accepted what their worlds were also with no conditions. Oh yeah, so that's how it is for you? Well, wow, that's kind of interesting. This is how it is for me. And slowly we took these ideas and we took these insights and we created truth, or a concept, as to how it is. Our world was expanded. We now had many concepts to look at. Slowly, our time began to accelerate and we began to increase our grade and our awareness and our understanding. We were now starting to be educated to the world, and the world had concepts. They didn't seem to be applicable to us as children because they were for the adult. We were not adults, but we examined the ideas and kind of hung out because we saw that these ideas affected our parents, and therefore as they affected our parents, we began to take them on as our own. Some of the ideas were, there are troubled times, things are struggle to keep going, things of this nature. Several of us grew up after our parents had gone through the Depression, and we were still feeling a little bit of the tightness, not really extravagance, sort of making sure that everything was okay before we actually bought things or got things. And as you can easily see, we have changed those concepts. We are not holding on to some sort of things are really rough and there's a struggle, so we should be careful. We've changed our ideas and saw that the universe is a growing thing and that you do not have to settle for a loaf of bread once a week. And so concepts that were in us that we grew up with changed. We were still, however, in school, and we were trying to get along with our fellow classmates, and so we were changing our ideas to fit their ideas. Now, what ideas and concepts we came up next were the ideas of the clique, or parental approval, which we saw as children our age. And we tried to fit into the cliques. If we were a cliquish person, wanted to have what the in crowd was wearing. We wanted to have the right shoes, the right clothes. Some of us really didn't care because that wasn't our aspect. Some of us wanted to study the books. Some of us wanted to do this. Some of us wanted to do that. And as we individualized, we also individualized in a small way to what we thought was important for us. Slowly, school ended. Our ideas and our concepts grew. And finally, it was time to go out into the world and apply these concepts. We could hardly wait, naturally. We had told our parents we could hardly wait to leave home. Some, however, didn't want to leave. They stayed into their 20s and early 30s. Each of us did what we thought was correct, gathering energy around us, gathering momentum around us. We noticed that the pace was a lot quicker, and so we quickened our pace. Started to do more things, started to take in more ideas. All the time that we were growing, however, we were a conglomerate of these concepts, a conglomerate of these ideas, and we let these ideas govern our life. Slowly, the ideas, as they grew, became things where we grew and got married and had children. And one of the major concepts that we've all dealt with and laughed about and heard from time to time is, what will the neighbors think? What will Sophie and Fred think? What will Mary and Jane think? And we've dealt with all of these things, and we have become a conglomerate of all of these ideas and thoughts. Now, in the past, you've heard me say that what you are right now is a conglomerate of all of these things out of the past, concepts. And a concept is nothing more than an idea placed in our head and built upon our own experiences. Some concepts are not based on our experiences, they're based on others' experiences that we've chosen to use as our own. Example, simple example, the stop sign should be stopped at. It wasn't our idea, but we can see that it works out, and so we follow others who have put these concepts and ideas into actuality so that we can follow them in a harmonious way. When we discover who we are, when we go for the self-awareness, we discover that we are an individual who is, when asked a question, gives an automatic answer. Automatically. This answer is based on all of the concepts, or where all of the energy is within us. And when something is asked of us, we give the automatic pat answer, not what we necessarily think in that moment, although some of us do. We are based on an accumulative picture of what we think we should be so that others accept us. This has been slowing us down and holding us back because it hasn't allowed us to truly be who we are now in this present moment. What we are, for some of us, is an accumulative of who we have been. We are trying to live past pictures in present time, and I don't believe that it works. Our present society is based on here and now ideas, not really something from the past. The past was helpful in the past because it was in present time in the past. And so we theoretically moved on those present time things in order to get our response. As the years go by, we get lazy and we start using old responses. I find that old responses do not fit or match present-day insights or material. We are using the old concepts because we are figuring that that is what other people wish to see from us, the facade, so that we have peace with everyone that we meet. The key here is to have peace within yourself instead of trying to make peace with everyone you meet. If you have peace within your own heart, in other words, if you take all of the energy that you are expending to please others, and you bring this energy back into yourself to please yourself, we have found that our growth begins to accelerate. We have found that our growth begins to accelerate. We have found that our growth begins to accelerate. We no longer spend our time in past events trying to be what others would like us to be. we find ourselves creating in this very moment the things that we want, or we require, or we need in this particular moment. And if we use old concepts, we have a hard time getting the new material across to us, and we become nostalgic and live in the past. I've watched a lot of friends. We've all come from cliques. I've come from a clique. I've seen how my friends change and grow. I've seen how my friends grab onto old patterns and have accepted the thought that you sit in a house with 2.1 children and a picket fence and all of those things that happen. We lock into that idea. I lock into that idea and begin to try to give it truth. I try to take the past sometimes and make it present time. A lot of us do that. We need to come out of the past. We need to be here and now. It is a matter of energy, and it's always there. I'd like to give a little example. Just kind of stay relaxed and kind of not really thinking about what I'm saying, but just sort of give a little comparison. I was in a major burn fire yesterday. It appears that this year they've measured the snow, and what they've discovered is we're anywhere from 15% to 60% short of snow this year. And what that means is we will be 15% less water to 60% less water in this whole area. For California, that means there will be a lot of forest fires once again because we will be short of water. One of the things that most of us do then is in the spring, which is now, we start burning all of the slag piles and trash that is kind of surrounding property so that in case of a fire, we're well protected. And I'm no exception. My land is up against 100,000 government acres, and we build fire breaks. And yesterday was our day to build the fire break. And so what you basically do is catch the woods on fire to a degree where you burn your slag piles. Now, when I say you catch the woods on fire, it's a controlled burn, but our controlled burns out here are a whole lot different than in the city. And so a flame to us could be 20 to 30 foot wide and about 40 foot high. And within this burn, it devastates anything within that particular format. And I watched how this energy worked because several of us were doing this particular burn, and it turned out that we had just enough people right on the money where that the burn kept our attention continuously. You weren't allowed to drift anywhere. And the energy of the fire was awesome. It was awesome indeed. And I wanted to compare the awesomeness of the energy with the concepts that we have in our mind. The awesomeness of the energy with how we think and how new ideas are grown. And I began to watch the fire very, very closely and began to have major realizations that the fire is a lot like us. And that the forest is a lot like us. And so I would like to make this little comparison. The flame is our energy. It consumes that which it's fed, and like a purification, it burns up that which we do not need. As we burn the forest, we should take a look and burn or have a baptism of fire in ourselves and take a look at our old ideas. Our old ideas are like the trees. Our concepts are like the trees. And this is what I mean by that. We have a fire going. We have all of the brush that has fallen off the trees, and this particular fire was a manicured fire. In other words, we cut down all of the low branches so that when the fire took off, the bigger trees did not catch fire because all of the dead wood. And we had the dead wood around the bottom of the trees and naturally pulled it out so it wouldn't burn up some of the things. And had a couple piles here and a couple piles there, sort of like our ideas as we gain branches from each one of these towering trees, which is a concept. So here we have flame, which is us, huge trees, which are our concepts that we've worked on for a long time, years on these concepts. And we have to look at the purification. Now this is what I've observed. As the fire burns through the woods, it is like our energy raging through ourselves. As we grow, huge trees or concepts in our mind grow. As the tree gets bigger and mightier, the bottom branches begin to die out. They were sort of the beginning thoughts that created the concept, which is the huge tree. And they get cut away, and they easily burn up, as years begin to change our concept of things. These big thoughts, these big trees are heavily rooted in. And we follow our life pattern from some of these heavily rooted in trees. We need to be aware of them. We need to be able to change them. We need to be able to have an insight whether we can use it or not. Sure, we can always use the material, but maybe not the way it's put together. As the fact that eventually these trees are cut down, sawed into wood, and become houses, different aspects of their original thought. Some trees stay in the woods and continue to grow in that form of energy. Some trees rot. They get started and they just die out because they are no longer of a value. And those trees, instead of standing, are just kind of laying down, and they burn quickly as the energy of the fire comes through. A lot of these things happen and go on. And so these giant trees are like our thoughts. Some stay, some grow, take root, last forever, until they, like the body, expire, just on age. Some are taken down and used in other things, such as houses. Our ideas follow these same patterns. Our thoughts follow these same patterns. Our concepts follow these same patterns. Sometimes these trees stay and we cut away the low stuff, the stuff that is no longer applicable, but the truth or the thought or the concept is still somewhat so clear and so understanding that we want to stay with it. We don't want to get rid of the idea or the thought. We want to stay with it because it's a good one. It may be God, it may be this, it may be that. And then we have the new things that are growing up on the ground. Now these new trees are kind of distinct because they're little, they're small, and they're the new ideas that we are growing now. They're going to grow up into big trees, or maybe not. They might be used as fence posts, smaller ideas, or houses when they grow up to be bigger trees. I'm slowly trying to build a relationship here, and we'll get this when we get to the other side of the tape, because energy looks like it's going to take more than half the tape. Now the fire is you. You are the energy. You consume everything that comes up for you, and you consume it in a very unique, wonderful, beautiful way. You are a major amount of energy, and excited to be so. And so now, let us not continue, but on this side so that we all get the right tape. And let's just go on to the other side and continue with this. Well, hello there. Here we are on the other side once again, and so we'll just kind of continue right along. Now, We've got all these different trees, and let's just look at them as different concepts. Some are going to grow in the houses. Some are going to grow partially and fall down and rot. Some are going to get bent by the winds of time and snap. Some are going to get diseased. Some are just going to fall and then all of a sudden decide to continue on and continue to grow in sort of a crooked manner. We've seen all sorts of trees. And so it's simple to see that this is the relationship we're using. Trees are our ideas and our energies. Not our energies, but they're our ideas and they're our concepts. And now to the fire. The fire is us. It's our energy. It's that raging aspect. It's that all-consuming part. You know it's consuming. It's sort of like get an idea and then get some excitement behind it, and you will see that that flame, that energy, gets out there and it consumes everything. So let's take a look at this, how it really works. So we start a fire in the woods. And the fire, which is us, starts to rage because it's got a lot to feed on. It's time for purification. It's sort of like when you sit down as a person and take out your old whisk broom and take your brain out and go, oh, it's time to clean house. And you sweep and you dust and you get the stuff out of there. And that's what a fire does. Some of us do fasts, like for each one of the changings of the season. Some of us sit down and say, well, I need to really get a handle on this. That's the same thing as a little purification of fire, sort of a baptism. You're going to check out your ideas and see how they stand up to time. And I think the whole reason that I'm even bringing all of this up or using this particular aspect is because right now, on this planet, this moment, as this tape's being produced, the universe is producing a flame. It is producing an energy that is purifying us. If you notice inside of you, all your major issues are up. And yet, for some of us, we may not even see that because we're so busy in the intellect, we are not getting the feeling or the expression of what is happening. And so some of us don't even know that the planet is putting out a purging and a cleansing. The good part is, who cares? Some of us don't need to know. We're doing what we need to do because it's perfect. We don't need to know that the planet is purging us. We have decided that we are going to stay in our brains and figure it out through our brain. Some of us have decided to figure it out in another way. Some of us have decided to feel it in our emotional bodies, and this is the only way we've chosen to learn. Some of us have chosen the spiritual body, and this is the only way. Some of us have chosen the physical body, and this is the only way. We have each picked our own way of manifesting. We need to find teachers and individuals who support that in us and encourage it in us. If I am not supporting you in a certain way or developing in a certain way, why are you studying with me? You need to go find the material from the individual